Announced in March, just before the stringent stay-at-home measures limited the circumstances in which any of us were able to leave our home, the Coronavirus Job Retention Scheme has been seen as the flagship government measure to limit the economic fallout from the coronavirus crisis. Since March, the scheme has allowed employers to furlough employees, keeping them on the payroll while requiring that they carry out no work for the employer. Employers have been able to claim a grant worth up to 80% of their usual wages, capped at $2,500 a month, plus employer national insurance contributions and automatic enrolment pension contributions. However, the Chancellor, Rishi Sunak, has now announced a series of changes to the scheme, which will begin to take effect in the coming weeks. The Chancellor has announced several important changes to the way the scheme operates, which will affect which employees can be furloughed and the work they can undertake while furloughed. Firstly, the scheme will, in effect, close to new entrants from the 10th of June. After the 30th of June, employers will be unable to furlough employees who have not previously been furloughed for a full 3 weeks. At the same time, they will not be able to furlough more employees in a claim period than the maximum number of employees claimed for under the scheme in its current form. Secondly, from 1st of July, employers will be able to bring back furloughed employees on a part-time basis under a system of flexible furlough. Employees can be brought back for any amount of time and on any shift pattern, with employers still able to claim for hours not worked that a furloughed employee would otherwise work. Furthermore, the minimum claim period will be 1 week. Employers will have to pay furloughed employees in full for any hours they work and meet the cost of employer NI contributions and pension contributions this pay attracts. Thirdly, from August the 1st, the value of the grants will begin to taper down. From August onwards, the grants will no longer cover the cost of employer national insurance contributions and pension contributions, with these costs passing to the employer. However, the grants will still cover 80% of an employee's usual wage up to a cap of £2,500 a month. From September, the grants will only cover 70% of the usual wages of furloughed employees, but those employees will remain entitled to receive 80% of their usual wages, again capped at £2,500 a month. This means that employers will need to make up the difference by contributing 10% of an employee's usual salary. October's grants will fall to 60% of a furloughed employee's usual wage, but as with September, those employees will remain entitled to 80% of their usual wages up to the cap of £2,500 a month. This means employers will now need to contribute 20% of a furloughed employee's usual salary. As expected, the scheme will close at the end of October, and it will not be possible to claim a grant in respect of a furloughed employee. This will lead to a cliff edge in support, with employers suddenly needing to cover 100% of wages in November, having been liable for just 20% in October, a five-fold increase. At this point, employers will have to decide whether they need to bring furloughed employees back to work as previously, renegotiate their contract, or make them redundant. If you currently have employees on furlough, you do not need to change anything until August, when you will need to begin meeting the cost of employer and national insurance contributions and pension contributions. However, it will be open to you to bring back these employees on a part-time basis from July, while still claiming a grant in respect of any of their usual hours that they do not work. This arrangement will then remain in place until the close of the scheme at the end of October, but you should bear in mind that the value of the grant will gradually reduce from August onwards. There are two key steps involved in bringing back an employee on flexible furlough from July onwards. First, you will need to agree a new flexible furlough agreement in writing with the employees concerned, setting out the new working arrangements. Second, you will need to report as part of your claim the number of hours worked by the furlough employee and the number of hours they would usually work.